It made me sick how women are blamed for being raped. That drove me crazy. It made me sick how people are treated. It's not okay.
Could you tell us a case that was particularly challenging, emotionally, legally, socially, whatever it could be, and what it taught you about resilience, humanity, or the system you work within?
One woman comes to mind. She was sexually abused by.
What's the biggest myth about the sexual assault?
There are still myths that exist, I think, that
How the society can embrace from school, from childhood, how to teach respect and consent and earlier. What is your take on it? How this can be changed?
I still give trainings to 17, 18-year-old kids, and I'm shocked that we all somehow don't agree on what consent is.
So, if you could change one law, policy, or let's say cultural norm tomorrow to improve how we respond to sexual violence, what would it be, according to you?
I wish.
All right. So, Robert, before we dive in into the work, what you do today, can you share what first drove you to becoming a rape crisis counselor? We would love to know more about what it is as well. But before that, what drove you to become what you do today?
Yeah, before I answer, I just want to tell your audience and anyone listening that this can be a really difficult conversation, and this can be quite heavy and triggering for people. So if this is too much for you, please turn it off if you need to. Please do whatever it is that brings you peace, whatever it is that brings you comfort and strength to get through this and after. And just know that you're not alone when talking about these issues or any of your experiences. So, how did I get involved? I was a senior in college. I took a class on women in crime, and we learned about female gang members. We talked about women in the prison system, and there was a section on the class that had to do with rape. And I was very moved by it. And we were reading a book, and there were women from a crisis center that came and were going to speak to my class. And they came in and they were like angels to me. I mean, these women were really just so strong and just so gentle. And I was truly in awe of what they did. And I was just listening to everything they said. And then in their presentation, they showed us a reenactment of a perpetrator. And that video caused a deep rage in me that scared me. That rage was really scary. And then that rage turned into a deep disgust where I literally thought I was just going to throw up in my chair. And God was speaking to me. And God asked me, "Will you help?" And I was so nervous, so scared, terrified, and like it's like every negative thing came at me like a wave, really. But after class, there were opportunities to volunteer. So as nervous as I was, I went up to these women and I just asked them, "Hey, can I can I volunteer with you?" And they took down my information and went through the interview process. Ultimately, they selected me and I became an intern, and my life has never been the same since. So I've been doing this work ever since that moment.
So, was there a moment or experience that lit that path for you? Like, okay, I heard that, okay, God came to you and said, "Will you do that?" But you had mentioned that you also got your like motivation or inspiration from the women out there. So,
Mm-hmm.
can you share a few more details about what really, like, lit that path inside you by watching them or by listening to them?
Yeah, it was a culmination of things. So it's also it's talking to women. It's they talked about in bars how some people can be roofied through a drink, and how they were working with bar owners to attempt to prevent that. And that was very moving to me. It made me sick how women are blamed for being raped. That drove me crazy. It made me sick how people are treated. It's not okay. And I also learned that just by listening to someone, you can really make a difference. So I knew in my heart, I knew in my soul, I would never blame a woman, a man, a child. I would never blame anyone for being sexually violated. And I knew I would always listen. The calling from God was something deeper and something that's actually very difficult to explain, but I knew I had to try. I said yes. Instead of saying no, I could have been given into the fears, given into the anxieties, given into the insecurities. I was very insecure. And I also had no idea what it would entail. So just by saying yes and trying, my life has changed. I've been doing this work for many, many, many years. And I've learned many things along the way. And one of them is which to not give into your fears, to not give into your insecurities, and to be present with people. Depending, it doesn't have to be with sexual violence. It could be with anything. But if you're present with people, you just show up. That's a large part of it to begin with. And it's been a true blessing. I mean, as heavy as this is and as scary as this is, it's very fulfilling. I love it. I love the people I've worked with. And, and I still learn. I'm still inspired. I'm still motivated to keep going through people.
And you touched on such an important thing, that being present and listening to someone. That is so rare these days. People are just on the fly, more giving or more talking and less listening. So I loved what you said. So before we get more into depth, I would really, someone in my group asked, do you only help for the survivors or also help for the offenders?
It can be anyone. Um, I know of stories of men who have just been crushed learning about their girlfriends or their wives who have been sexually abused. So there have been men who have called crisis. There are men who call crisis centers just to gain information for their loved ones. So it's not about just individual survivors. It's not about people who are victimized immediately. It can be anyone. It could also just be anyone curious, anyone who wants to learn more. I work with students, and I've had high school students be inspired to get active. So it can be anything from, there are services out there for people. They do exist. And it can be someone, if someone chose to go to the police or chose to go to a hospital, that an advocate might be there with them. And there are many people that don't, which is completely fine. And it could be someone calling a hotline and someone will pick up that phone, at 3 a.m. if you need it. And it can just be as simple as someone asking a question for a family member or a friend. But resources are out there. They do exist.
Hmm. So, if someone has to take up this career, what do they have to know about it, um, as a reality check?
Mm. If someone chooses this path, if someone feels called to this path, I'd recommend you do it. I would recommend you be confident and be strong in your abilities, because you must feel something inside to do something, right? But know that it is difficult. It can be incredibly challenging, and that's okay. It's also okay if you ever need to stop, if you need to take time away. A lot of, at least with the crisis center I worked at, it was predominantly volunteer based. So there are staff members, there are clinicians, but there are also a significant percentage of volunteers. And there are people that do it for a long time and people do it for a short amount of time. And that's, any amount of time is good. It's all helpful. So I'd recommend people do it, but I'd also try to say it's okay to understand that you might not, you can't fix everything. We can't fix the world right now. We're not making it perfect. I've never claimed to, I never will. But it doesn't mean you don't try. It doesn't mean you don't make a real difference. You can save lives. You literally can change lives and save lives, and you can prevent horrific pain in this world by getting involved.
And so, as you mentioned, that the volunteering is the way how someone can get trained in the qualities and mindset that is required for this profession.
Mm-hmm.
So, what does a day in your life looks like? And both, I'm not just asking, I'm asking from all the perspective, from practical sense, from emotional, mental sense. How does your day in life looks like?
For me, this isn't a job like a 9 to 5. This is a lifelong calling that I am open to people anytime, but it's not a 9 to 5 job in a business. I'm not a clinician. I never claimed to be. Um, So for me, I work in schools, I work in construction, I do a whole bunch of jobs to help, feed my family. But it can be an interview like this on a Saturday morning. It can be a text message from someone at night. It could be emails at night, phone calls. There can be people calling me at any time, people disclosing to me at any time. I could be anywhere, and someone can randomly disclose to me when I least expect it. So for me personally, it's just simply being prepared, no matter where I go in my life, to be able to react and treat people the way they deserve to be treated, with love and compassion, with patience and with empathy and with listening, if someone chooses to open up. And if not, that's totally fine. Some of my work is simply trying to educate adults around these issues and trying to bring this into school systems. So for me, it's different. But for other people, they do work 9 to 5. They do work there. They are clinicians, and God love them. It's difficult work, so I give them all the credit in the world.
Wow, you're doing a beautiful work. Love, compassion, listening. Loved it. Loved it. And thank you for doing what you do. Let's get a little bit more into the and again, for the audience, this is also a tough conversation for me, but I'm going to dig in deeper. So, could you tell us a case that was particularly challenging, emotionally, legally, socially, whatever it could be, and what it taught you about resilience, humanity, or the system we work within?
Hmm. I mean, so many. I'd say, one woman comes to mind. She was sexually abused by her cousin as a kid, and she would open up to me, but she just snapped one day. She couldn't hold in. I always like loved her as a friend. She had a big bright smile. I always saw her funny side. I saw like the light within this woman. I had no idea of the hell that she has experienced, and she couldn't hold in anymore. She just snapped, and she just started, bawling, crying, breaking down. And her friend was there as well, so both of us were with her. And I had some good moments with her. But ultimately, she, I think, needed distance from me, because I think she, every time, I don't know this, but I almost assume, or I think that almost every time she saw me, she thought of that, because she ultimately opened up to me and disclosed to me, where she would probably want to live her life not thinking of that. So we essentially parted ways, but she knows the things I've told her. She knows the love I have for her. And I only hope and pray for her, and I hope and pray that she's doing well now. But I haven't seen her in a very long time. So I would call that a challenging case, even though it's, it's, it's such a hidden crime. It's a crime of shame. It's so hidden. You don't see these effects on people often. So this is just one story of one woman that I saw as a light. I saw as someone funny. I saw as she's really smart, but you don't understand the pain she feels inside, and all at the hands of sexual abuse, and how that affects her insecurity, her self-esteem, her choices with men, her choices with sex. And so again, all I can do for her is pray for her and always be there if she ever reached back out. But I also I respect the distance, and I think that's okay too. People need their distance. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And that's such a important aspect you have touched, that even you care for the person, for the human, but you also care about the giving space and distance, and you understand that. And yeah, and you still, I'm sure you are still blessing the person that will come out, because you don't know about it, and I can feel the challenge. But thank you for bringing this out. So, how do you personally navigate the emotional weight about certain, I'm sure, regarding this case or more cases? And how do you still find strength to return back to what you do? Because I'm sure it is emotionally, mentally, also, there's a lot of weight on you as well as a counselor.
Well, for me, it's God. It's my faith in God. It is my spiritual side. I have a tattoo that says "Strength from Above" on my back, so I personally gain strength from above. Um, I learned the most through Jesus in my understanding of the words written about him and the stories written about him. And I pray, I tap into my spiritual side. I use music. I listen to music a lot. I find music to be one of the voices of God. And so for me, God is more powerful than the pains of this world. There's so many pains of this world. And so often the pains of this world win out, shall you say. But I work in a field of truth and lies. Like there are truth and lies. These crimes teach people lies. So for me, I try to stick in the truth. It helps me. It strengthens me. It inspires me. But I don't have all the answers, and I don't always handle it the best way either. And sometimes I can be very depressed. I don't want to work out. I don't want to move. Um, but I love my wife. I go to her often, and just hanging out with my family, like hanging out with my wife and stepdaughter, we just watch some funny shows and we just laugh a lot. So that's always helpful to let go of the serious side. And I work with kids, so I'm truly blessed to be able to work with children. And I mean, I have so much joy in working with kids that is such a great way to not be consumed by this all the time. But I'll never let go of the side. And there is this very serious side to me in this work that I do that most of my students, most people in my life don't even know about. And that's completely fine. And then it's kind of interesting. Sometimes when they learn about it, they're just shocked. And it's like, yeah, no, I've been doing this for a long time. Because it's not relevant to tell them. It's not necessary.
What's the biggest myth about the sexual assault?
Hmm. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the biggest one is, what the current one is, or the most current ones are right now. Because I do believe sexual violence has gained more attention in the public. I do believe it's gained more. I do believe more people have become educated than 10, 20 years ago. However, I mean, one myth is that like so often people talk about alcohol and drugs. The vast majority of people I've ever worked with, it's alcohol has absolutely nothing to do with anything. Um, there are still myths that exist. I think that all these stranger assaults that exist, and of course they exist. People are assaulted by strangers, but the vast majority of people sexually abused are abused by someone they know. And even talking about women, where there are so many men who are abused and so many boys and just children in general. I don't know if it's a myth or not, but I don't know if people really understand. I'm not saying I fully understand, but really understand the depths of what children are experiencing. It's horrific. So um, the myths that a beautiful woman is dressed in a sexy way, goes out and gets drunk and gets raped. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but that is not the reality and not the majority. And that's just not what's happening.
Thank you for bringing that up. And for I have heard this a lot from someone who is a survivor, that um, she got assaulted from the person whom she knew. And I know, and even I'm not assaulted in a rape condition way, but I'm of course assaulted sexually twice or thrice in my life, and by someone whom I knew. And I had to resist, I had to say no, and I had to report this. That is what that stopped that person taking next stage with respect to my boundaries and stuff like that. So I can now it I remembered what had happened. So yeah, and I have never talked about this in front of the camera. So of course my family knows about it, but this is the first time I'm bringing out on the camera because people need to know about these things, and all the humans need to be vocal about what has happened with them. And so just sharing with you. Um, So we often hear about women as survivors, and I believe that the percentage of women who are assaulted is more. Am I right, or is it still the case, or the change is happening?
I mean, well, I'm sorry that happened to you, and I thank you for opening up and trusting me enough to share that. I have to ask, I mean, how are you doing now with even this conversation on camera and disclosing that? How are you doing?
I'm actually doing pretty well. I have journaled about this quite a lot because I lost trust in men after going through this kind of assaults. Like, the the person whom I knew, he was trying to progress forwards, but I was on in my senses. And even if I was not in my senses, that does not matter. Somehow God has, protected me at that time, and I'm truly grateful for. And God, as in God, sent someone to help me out at that time. So, um, but yeah, and then I of course did therapy after that, because I lost trust in men for such a long time, until I met my husband, who was my boyfriend, and then the trust again started building. But yeah, and even in the teenage age, it has happened. Like, I was traveling in a bus for the very first time, and um, an unknown man has put his hands on my lap and stuff like that, trying to progress. So um, I had reported that also to the authorities and stuff like that. So I have always been vocal about these things. It's so my family knew about it, but it's for the very first time I'm talking to on YouTube with my audience, with you. So that's something I never realized that I would share, but God wanted me to share about these things. So, yep. And yeah, I after that I have been watching a lot of YouTube videos on about these things in general. It's difficult to process sometimes what human goes through, and I'm not just talking about women. As I'm women, I understand more, I connect more, but it's not like only women go through that. I know a few of my friends who are men and who has also gone through it. I have a friend who is a who comes from a LGBTQ community, and it's still a human, even if we, differentiate in this way. The society differentiates, but we all are humans, and everyone goes through a pain. And for them, it's more like, when I have listened to her, um, it just broke my heart that, like, there are of course people like you who are helping transgenders and LGBTQ community, because they all are humans. But the society doesn't take it in that way. I have seen horrible situation with her, and I'm glad I have her as my friend. I'm
Mm.
very proud of her at what she has gone through and how she's helping other people now. So yeah.
Yeah, I thank you again, and I really believe what you have shared is going to make a massive impact on people. It's stories, it's survivor stories. It's people who experienced some of these things that share these things have a real gift to help others. People do not have to be alone. They don't have to suffer alone, and that doesn't mean you'll be perfect. Doesn't mean everything's perfect, but uh, this doesn't have to cripple and control you. It doesn't have to completely dictate your life and your choices. And so I thank you again for opening up. The You said it earlier, we're all human. So this is a human issue. I call it a spiritual issue. It's not just about men and women. It's people that identify of different ways. People are violated, people are hurt, people feel guilt, people hate themselves, people want to die. So many times people even ask me, what do you say and what do you do? And you go to the police. I go, no, it's their life that matters the most. It's people staying alive. And people talk about justice, but there's different forms of justice. So talking about your friend, it's what is your friend struggling with, and what is helpful for your friend? What is going to be helpful for your friend in your friend's healing process of what your friend experienced? And so we try to be a bridge to whatever that might be. And it's different for different people.
Absolutely. You said it very right. My friend had a her family was not able to understand her for quite a long time, and she has been abused like thrice. Like the number is not important, but what she went through was such a I can't even talk what she went through. It was very brutal, and then but then like someone like you helped her to come out of that, and now she's helping her community to get out of it, and that is such a powerful transition. Still her family doesn't support her, but now she has become someone's family to support, and to and she does it all spiritually. Meditation is part of it. Now they take the downloads from the higher power, and they are doing so many things to heal other people. So yeah, it's and from her I'm understanding more about how we all are humans. Like there's a oneness, even if we look different, but we all have the same, like organs are same. We all have two hands, two legs, not just humans, even the animals for that matter. But I mean, that's a completely different discussion
Mhm.
for today's topic. But on vibrational level, we all are one. um, so yeah, just thought to bring that up. So coming back to our conversation, um, so at least I have often heard about women, like more percentage of women being as survivors, but I'm sure we don't talk much about men, or like you know all the other now, because like even you and me believe in human as a whole bucket, but just for the simplicity for the audience to understand the emotions and what the other community of humans, what society identifies, goes through. What does their trauma look like? Can you explain it? Is there any difference between how women goes through the trauma and how um, other human differentiation goes through?
I think, I mean, in my experience, there are more similarities than you would think because male or female, woman or man, again, shame, guilt, low self esteem, no self esteem, anger, rage, eating disorders, self harm. These are things that exist for regardless of how one identifies and regardless of your biological sex. Um, One difference could be with men and even with boys, where I've seen, I've listened to men talk about how they might think they're gay because of it, where sometimes they can have an arousal, an erection, and that they and the perpetrator might even make them believe that they enjoyed it. And part of counseling and part of really getting through to someone through this horror, this misery, is helping them to actually understand that it's not like they enjoyed it. It's actually a normal physiological response to trauma. But I've also dealt with not dealt with. I don't mean to say that way. I've also worked with women who have had that too, where their body has reacted in a certain way and they feel immense shame over it. So that's a difference, but that's kind of a similarity too. That you can imagine how that could really screw a person up in their mind, how that could really mess with them for a long time. So that is one thing that I have found that some guys go through, specifically as kids, and how, and maybe even just, I know there are men that just simply don't feel comfortable opening up, and there are people in the world that don't want to listen to them. Uh, but there are people that do as well. And just because they're a male or a boy doesn't mean that a teacher or a parent or a counselor won't listen to them. But I do find it challenging for them. But I also just find it challenging for anyone, really. I don't know if that answers the question, but um, someone might give you a better answer. I find there are some differences, but there are just similarities too.
Yeah, and you touched a very important aspect that, again, it comes down to humanity, that we all feel and experience shame, guilt, when it comes to sexual assault. And as you said, there are a lot of similarities what everyone goes through that condenses that, okay, on the human level, we all are experiencing same, especially when it comes to sexual assault, where people are trying to differentiate things, but at certain level they are still the same kind of emotion the person is going through.
Because it's hard to say that women feel more comfortable opening up than men because there are so many women that don't. So it's difficult to say that. It's difficult to say, oh, society teaches men not to speak, but you can say that, but there are still countless women that, for many reasons, as you know, have are justified completely in not talking to people. So there is a problem we have in our world of not believing. There's a problem in our world of not listening. There's a problem in our world of blaming and treating people poorly. This is a problem regardless of gender and orientation that is something I attempt to work through and change. And as you are too. These are some massive problems. We should be welcoming people to open up regardless of their pain. Um, but not, and I'll say this too. I mean, I've seen men not open up for 30 years and then all of a sudden their wives find out about it. And I've seen their wives just devastated. I mean, just like bawling, crying. They can't fathom that their man, their husband, the father of their children, was sexually abused at the age of 6. And so that could be a difference of the two because I've seen from the female side how crushed some of them are for their husbands, and it's just like their whole world got just flipped upside down.
So what's the reality of underreporting, and what factors keep survivors from seeking justice or even support?
This is exactly why I don't talk about numbers because it's the least reported violent crime. So any number, in my opinion, or maybe not even in my opinion, any number you have is ultimately, it doesn't show the full truth given the lack of reporting. Like the story I told you of a woman earlier, she's not in those statistics. So how is that accurate? The story I just told of those men whose women just learned about them, they're not in those statistics. So it's not accurate. You could get accurate statistics on convictions. You can get accurate statistics on arrests that these are the arrests right now, but that doesn't show the full picture of what's going on. So it's very, again, back to it's a crime in it's hidden. It's often a crime of secrecy. It's often a crime unknown to people, even around us, even in our own homes, and it will continue.
So, if you could change one law, policy, or let's say cultural norm tomorrow to improve how we respond to sexual violence, what would it be, according to you?
It's a good question. I wish more adults took this seriously for their own children. I find school systems that don't, they want nothing to do with it, or they don't want an in depth conversation like this. They either think, oh, this doesn't happen here, this would never happen to my kid would never do this, or all the fear that schools might have of parents or media or whatever. So one cultural norm is that just more adults in general take this so seriously for our children, for our kids, for this world, for the innocent children of this world. That would be one that, and there are plenty that do, but it's there's so many kids that are being hurt, are hurting people. They're confused, they have questions, but they don't have many people to talk to, and we're not doing the best job embracing that and creating an environment where they would feel comfortable talking to us about their questions, their issues, their friends' issues. When they do, it's great, but I would argue that a lot of kids are dealing with things on their own or just with their friends and with like their phones and technology, and there's a better way.
Yeah, so can you touch upon what you think is a better way, and also like how the society can embrace from school, from childhood, how to teach respect and consent, and earlier. What is your take on it? How this can be changed?
You said it. You said the word consent. I still give trainings to 17, 18-year-old kids, and I'm shocked that we all somehow don't agree on what consent is. And I don't know how. And I tell people, I'll tell people, you can't control who you're attracted to. You can't. You can't control who you find attractive. You control what you do about it. You can't control a sexual urge. You control what you do about it, the choice you make about it. So I try to tell kids, like, it's okay if how you feel. It's okay if what you think. It's okay to be attracted to someone. It's okay not to be attracted to someone. It's okay if someone's attracted to you, and it's okay if someone's not attracted to you. What isn't okay is if you're violent, aggressive, manipulative, if you're taking advantage of someone. That's what's not okay. Here's why. And oh, by the way, this is a crime, and here are all the effects that your actions do to another human being. So, in a simple rule of life, don't do that. And so that's part of teaching and training of like consent. The younger we could do it, I really believe the better. And there's age appropriate ways to do this. But in high school and even younger kids, as young as middle school, if you're learning about sex, if you're learning about drugs, mental health, you should be learning about consent. And there's different ways we give consent. It's not just verbally. And this is actually one of the things that really hurts survivors, a lot of women, where they say the word yes, they say it, but in reality, they didn't really want to say it. There was coercion, fear, intimidation. So they say the word yes, they ultimately are raped, and they struggle with that because they'll say to me, "Well, I said yes." It's like, "Well, no, but you don't understand what your eyes, your body, your face was doing." So that's part of the conversation of consent. And that is one of the things that really affects people's healing process. And if you can break that down and really help them to understand the truth about what that means, I believe the healing will continue and their life will change.
So the law is all around consent, and if there's a consent, I believe then the case takes over in a very different way. Can you touch upon that? And how many offenders really like had to go through their crime, whatever they went through, or do they just pay and do the service, community service, and they are off of their crime? What's your take on that? What have you seen? Where have are there any changes required in the system itself?
Well, I am not a legal expert, and it's different in different countries, and even within the United States, it's different within different states. I live in the US. So even the law of consent is different per state. One of the challenges of reporting is the lack of evidence. So in so many cases, there's just a lack of evidence. How do you prove it? And a lot of advocates will get angry against the criminal justice system. They'll be, our system's horrible. We have to, this world sucks. This is terrible. But what are lawyers, police officers, and judges supposed to do if there's actually no evidence of anything? They should still listen to people. They should still treat them well. They can still investigate, but it doesn't ultimately mean you will get a conviction. And even if you get a conviction, it doesn't mean that that person will go to prison for a long time or even prison at all. So it's very challenging. There are people who go to prison, and there are people that should be in prison for a very long time, if not possibly for the rest of their lives. But there are many people who commit these crimes who are not arrested, not convicted, and it's a really challenging thing. It's one of the reasons I never tell people to go through the criminal justice system, but if they choose to give them all the support they need in that process. with as many people as possible, with the best people possible to help them through that process. But it's really challenging. People can report an assault, and a school might either not take it seriously or not find the person accused guilty. And now you have to be in school with that person. Now people might have to get changed in terms of classes or dorm rooms. It's really sad. One of the things I attempted to do at one school is, let's just say you have a person making an accusation, and they go through an investigation, and they ultimately determine through evidence or lack of evidence that the person accused didn't commit this crime. So they find essentially a not guilty plea outside of court, maybe like in the school system. I said, but why can't you follow up with that girl who has made this accusation every month, every 3 months, every 6 months? Just have a note to yourself. Just, hey, just wanted to check in. How are you doing? I don't know if schools implement that. That's one idea that I have for those who make those claims.
That's an important one to check in. That might change a few things. Yeah, that's a thank you for bringing that up. Like, I'm sure someone listening to might get this idea and start implementing it.
See, one of the challenges, people in later in life, adults who abuse as kids, some of them might, and some of them, they're mad at themselves for not reporting. Even teens or even young adults, they're hard on themselves. This is one of the things with this crime. They're so hard on themselves, which is so sad because they didn't do anything wrong. Yet they were a child. What are they supposed to do? I've had a woman be so mad at herself. She's like, I can't believe I didn't report. I said, you did. You reported to a college security guard who did nothing. So you did report. But years later, she still feels like she didn't do anything. I mean, this is part of the trauma. This is part of the difficulties of healing and the healing process. But that's why the reporting it's an interesting conversation. It's a great one, but it's just not as simple as something happens, you accuse, someone gets arrested or thrown away in jail. It's not as simple as that.
Yeah. We are at about the end of the podcast. If a survivor is listening right now and feeling no hope at all, what's the one message you would want them to carry?
You are loved. You have a purpose. You are here. And whatever happened to you is not you. It doesn't speak to you. It's not who you are. That you can grow, you can heal. You are not alone in any of this. And you are loved beyond your comprehension. God loves you more than you even know. And even if you don't believe in God, that love is still there. So nothing that happened to you is unspeakable. And as scary as it is, people will treat you well. People will love you, and people will treat you with the respect, the empathy, the compassion, and the patience that you deserve. You deserve it. So keep your head up, and always reach out to someone if you need it. But do it to someone that really cares about you. And if you're ever treated poorly, you find someone else. You don't let it isolate you for longer just because someone doesn't understand or doesn't care to understand. Someone else will.
If our listeners could take one action this week to create a safer, more compassionate world for
An action people could do is check in with a friend, check in with a family member, ask how they're doing, like really ask how they're doing. And if they were curious about engaging in a conversation, anything like this, one feeler, sometimes people want to open up, but they're obviously they're scared too, and they don't know how even their own spouse might react. They really don't know how their own spouse might. And I've been involved with women who I'm like, oh, talking about their husband, I know nothing about the husband. And then over time, I learned more about the husband. I'm like, I don't actually think you should bring this up to your husband right now. And one of the ways you can almost test it is you can bring up even a story in the media. You could bring up a random story about something you've heard and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And depending on their reaction, might want you to talk more, and they might say maybe it's someone else I should talk to.
It's an important one. Thank you for sharing, for giving that information.
Well, I just want to thank you very much. I want to deeply thank you for this, and you know, I really appreciate it. And for anyone listening, you'll be okay. You can get through it. You can get through it, and you're proof of that. So thank you for this.
Thank you so much, Robert, for choosing to be on this podcast, Inward Strides with Savni. As we close, I just wanted to take a breath together. These kind of conversations are not easy, but they matter. And because they remind us of our shared responsibility to create safer, kinder, and conscious communities. Uh, to the audience, if something in Robert's words touched you today, let it stay with you. Let it soften how you see others and um, how you hold yourself. And remember, healing, whether for you or for someone you love, begins with, as Robert said, with presence, patience, and compassion. Uh, until next time, keep listening inward and keep walking your strides with gentleness. And I would love to know what part of today's conversation touched you the most. Share it with me in the comment section. I'm truly grateful that you send me so many DMs, and I enjoy reading those DMs conversations. But I would highly be grateful if you could share some of the things. I know that some things are way too personal and you don't want to share in the comments, but whatever is not too personal and whatever because your reflections will keep the circle alive of like other human might receive it as an insight, or they will get it as another perspective, or it might give someone some hope. So uh, please share it whatever you can in the comments as well. um, yeah, and thank you for watching Inward Strides, and thank you for showing all the love. Until next time, goodbye.